In Argentina, it's been 100 days of Javier Milei's presidency. He was elected in November last year, and he came with a promise to fix the economy with what he called a shock therapy. And he's faced a lot of backlash for it, a lot of protests. But did the shock therapy work? Looks like it did. Monthly inflation has cooled off. In December, it was 25%, in January, 20.6%, and in February, it was 13%. So the trend looks positive. Inflation is cooling. Argentina's monthly inflation, that is. Milei calls it the result of strong fiscal discipline. The government also boasted of a budget surplus. It's the first in a decade. Even the IMF approves. That's the International Monetary Fund. So some success for President Milei there. But it's not all good. Milei has other problems like annual inflation. We just told you about monthly inflation. This is what the annual inflation looks like. It is at a record 276%, the highest in more than 3 decades. 57% of the country is living under poverty. There are strikes. People are protesting against the austerity measures.
Argentina is going through a humanitarian crisis. I've been saying it for a long time. Once again, we see families and children rummaging through the garbage to try to put something in their bellies. We are not going to sit idle in the face of this reality.
When these people explode, they explode. So we're telling the government to pay attention to what is happening and to resolve the situation of hunger that they are creating.
When Milei took office, Argentina was already in a bad state. Inflation was at 143%. 1 in 4 Argentinians lived in poverty. The currency had lost 90% of its value against the dollar. Milei vowed to change all of that, but warned that the process would be painful. Short-term pain, long-term gain. That was Milei's motto. That's what he said. He described himself as an anarcho-capitalist. His measures were radical. First, he devalued the peso, that's Argentina's national currency. He devalued it by 50%. He slashed 50,000 public jobs. New public work contracts were suspended. Fuel and transport subsidies were all thrown out of the window. The state news agency was shut. So was the country's anti-discrimination agency. And funding for scientific research was cut down. The idea was to cut cost. And the IMF welcomed the move. So did international investors. Argentina's international bonds rallied by 7%. That's a reflection of investor confidence. So it started off on a positive note. Milei achieved some early success, but he also faced political hurdles. You see, his party is in the minority. It doesn't have the numbers in Congress. And his rivals do not like his plans. Last week, the Senate rejected a proposal, a decree to change 300 existing standards like rent caps, regulations on health care, labor laws, privatizing state-owned enterprises, reducing maternity leave pay. So this was a radical austerity plan, and it met with opposition. People took to the streets in protest. The courts called it unconstitutional. Lawmakers did not support it, and Argentina's Senate then struck it down. It's a setback for the president. And he's said to be working on another strategy, firming up his numbers, waiting for the midterm elections. They'll be held next year in 2025. If his party does well in those elections, he may get the bill through. And while his policies are delivering for now, they do have their own set of problems. Like I said, more than half of Argentina's population is living in poverty. Food prices are soaring. People cannot afford food. So when the government cuts food aid, these people suffer. Some of them are scavenging to survive.
When we take the rubbish bins out, there are at least 20 people who approach us. They are looking for something to take home. This is a very tough and a sad situation.
Critics believe Milei's policies could lead to mass unemployment, something that would wreck the economy. But Milei is convinced about his plan. He says it will get way worse before it gets better. Either way, Argentina is looking at a turbulent future.